When you think of F1, you surely think of Lewis Hamilton. Since his debut in 2007, he's been one of the top performers in the sport. And now, after breaking numerous records and starting his 17th season in the sport, it's starting to look like we'll have to say goodbye very soon, as Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes contract expires at the end of 2023. According to former F1 driver Jenson Button, whether Hamilton will continue beyond the 2023 Formula 1 season is entirely dependent on the competitiveness of the W14. And right now, things aren't looking too bright for Mercedes. Will they be able to keep Hamilton on board? Or is this the last year we'll see Hamilton in F1? Button believes Hamilton's worries about the new car are to blame for the absence of a contract extension. As a result, he believes the Mercedes driver would wait to see how competitive his team is before continuing in the highest class of motorsport. Why otherwise would you leave it this late? He knows how annoying we all are asking, Button said. I mean, we've got to ask the question, but he's going to hate answering it over and over and over again. It can only be because he's wondering how competitive they'll be. Button anticipates more friction between Hamilton and George Russell this year than in 2022 F1 season, when Russell finished ahead of his colleague in the final rankings. First year, it's easy because there's no real pressure on your shoulder. Nobody expects you to beat Lewis Hamilton, judged the 2009 world champion. In Russell's second year, Button hopes to see the teammates fight for victories. And now, even Toto Wolff admits that Mercedes did not make the best possible start at the winter test in Bahrain. The team boss, on the other hand, emphasized that the test days taught vital lessons, and that there are good indications regarding the path the team should follow. But could this all be too late for Hamilton? Wolff cannot dispute that the winter test at Bahrain International Circuit did not go exactly as planned. On day 2, we had some reliability issues and battle with the car setup, the 51-year-old Austrian revealed in a Mercedes news release. The essential aim, though, would have been managed to meet, learning a lot about the car that George Russell and Lewis Hamilton would race in the 2023 Formula 1 season. We made good progress on the final day, which gave us direction to work on in the short period between the test and this weekend's race, the Mercedes team boss continued. Even if he indicated that Red Bull Racing may start the season with a lead, Wolff is hesitant to make any firm predictions based on 3 days of testing. Our expectations were that we would likely be playing catch-up to the front based on how last year ended. That seems to be the case so far, but we'll only know for sure after this weekend, Wolff said. So the Bahrain Grand Prix will provide the F1 world with the first indication of whether or not the gap between Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull has shrunk. Then there's the question of whether Mercedes is involved. Finally, firm judgments will have to wait a little longer. On the Sky Sports F1 podcast, former driver Karen Chandhok emphasizes that the wind tunnel reset will represent a turning point. If in the second half of the year Mercedes are so far behind, then they'll have big decisions to make. At that point, do they go, forget this car, we're out of this fight, and focus on developing a new concept for next year, because you can't keep persevering with the same concept for more than 2 years, Chandhok said. Between 2014 until 2021, Mercedes won every Constructors' World Championship, a period of dominance unprecedented in Formula 1. Nevertheless, they fell short when rule and regulation amendments were implemented in the sport in 2021. Chandhok asks if the aviation department is under pressure over their future. If you are someone like Mike Elliott and the aero department, you're starting to feel the pressure in terms of confidence. The development curve will be fascinating. If they can find the answers and unlock this potential they keep talking about in the first half of the year, then they can build on that, he concluded. And if they want to keep Hamilton, they'll have to make improvements. But Toto Wolff isn't too afraid of losing Hamilton as his driver. As Toto Wolff says, a Mercedes contract extension for Lewis Hamilton is going to happen, and Hamilton believes he can remain in Formula 1 for at least another 5 years. Hamilton's current Mercedes F1 contract expires at the end of 2023, when he'll be almost 39 years old. He's spoken previously of not seeing himself racing into his 40s, but also indicated earlier this season that he's still enjoying what I'm doing, and feel like I've got plenty of fuel left in the tank. I'm sure we'll sit down at some stage and talk about the future, Hamilton said last year. During the French Grand Prix in July last year, Wolff was questioned about Hamilton's chances of achieving 400 Grand Prix starts. He now has 310 and 103 wins, and he said talks between them were centered on the next 5 to 10 years. Wolff claimed that a contract extension for Hamilton was merely a question of time in an interview with David Coulthard for Channel 4 F1, which was broadcast on Channel 4 Sports' YouTube page on the day of the Singapore Grand Prix. The advantage is we speak a lot together. Both live near each other in Monaco. Just last week we sat down and he says, "Look, I have another 5 years in me. How do you see that?" Wolff said. "Over time, we've just grown together. We're totally transparent with each other. Lewis will be the first one to say, I can't do this anymore because I feel I haven't got the reactions anymore, or I've just lost fun doing it. And there is another generation growing up that's just very strong. So I have no doubt that whatever we agree on a contract extension, which is going to happen, that we both are always going to discuss very openly what does the future hold." Wolff described Hamilton as F1's shining star and the greatest personality that Formula One ever had. He also stated that Fernando Alonso, who's been racing competitively in F1 well into his 40s, may serve as a model for Hamilton in terms of longevity. "I don't know if 40 is that age where you say that it's not adequate anymore for a racing driver," Wolff added. "If you look at where Fernando is with 41 years, he's still very much there. Today, is he the same Fernando that he was at 25? I don't know, but he's very competitive still. You look at Tom Brady, the NFL star, who's somebody I really admire for having the discipline in how he manages his life and his sport. He's 43 or 44, and he's on the pitch. So Lewis, with the way he leads his life, with the full ultra-narrow focus on his F1 racing, all the others are just hobbies. I think he can take it quite far." Wolff also wants Hamilton's current teammate George Russell to be retained in the long term, having been impressed with Russell's performance and integration within the current Mercedes setup, despite a particularly difficult season so far in 2022. "George has been great joining the team," Wolff said. "He's a good personality. He acts with integrity. He's very transparent working with Lewis. These two really have added to the team's development slope this year. He was obviously hoping to be in a Mercedes and win races and championships, which he got that timing wrong, but at least he has progressed to the midfield now. That time is going to come. He will win races, he will race for championships, and I think he absolutely has it in him. I feel very good to have him in the team over the long term." Of course, George has won his first race last year in Brazil, so George has officially moved up to become a race winner. But judging these comments from Wolff last year, we're almost certain to say that we will see Hamilton and George driving in the Mercedes cars for the coming years. What do you think about that? Is Hamilton still a top driver? Could he, like Alonso, go on to his mid-40s if he's given a 5-year contract extension? And can Mercedes afford to have Hamilton for another 5 years? He'll obviously want a pay rise, with rumours going as high as $100 million per year. Is he worth that much money? We'll let you decide. Let us know your thoughts about Hamilton's possible contract extension in the comments below. We'd love to read them. That's all for today's video. Be sure to subscribe to see more of our F1 content. We'll see you in the next video.